Everybody, welcome back to the Bay Bolts channel, and today we have another episode of Quick Strike for you. Returning today, as always, my name is Jake Ricker, alongside my good friend Michael Wax. Michael, we have a scrimmage to break down today. How you doing?
Doing well, and judging by how they played, I'm doing very well. It's been a really good weekend in terms of Lightning news.
Yeah, the Bolts look great in that scrimmage, so let's go ahead and break that down for you. We're actually do something a little bit different for you guys. So if you guys do enjoy this new format, please be sure to leave a like down below and let us know that you're enjoying the new way we're doing this. So we're just going to talk about what we liked and what we didn't like. So Michael, I'll start off with you. Did you have a player that kind of stood out to you in this scrimmage?
Well, I had two really, one forward, one defenseman. Both of them I think are ready to make the NHL. Both of them have been penciled into a lot of lineups when it comes to the Lightning. The forward Alex Barry-Boulet, who I know is your favorite guy, and the defenseman Cal Foote, who I think a lot of people have been itching for him to get in the lineup. Cal Foote made some pretty nice defensive plays. He was very steady. Loved him on that pairing with Mikhail Sergachev. And then as far as Barry-Boulet, he had a breakaway. He had a couple of really nice passes, took full advantage of the offensive zone, was not a liability in the defensive zone, and had a unbelievable pass to Ross Colton in that first goal. Ross Colton is another guy that I like. He had a pretty good game, but he wasn't a standout like those two were.
Yeah, Alex has been really good. I've been really excited, as I mentioned multiple times on this show, for him to come up. He actually was wearing number 60, which for those of you that don't know is the number that I sport on my jersey. So that was kind of cool. But Foote had a really good game as well. He had a great chance in front of the net with a big slap shot too. He took from the slot. Unfortunately, went a little high and was able to miss the net. But for me, one guy that stood out for me, who I don't think is going to be making the roster anytime soon, but that was Borgman. And that's a name you probably not used to hearing. Is the Lightning just recently signed him this season or last season. But his name was mentioned a lot on this broadcast tonight, and I thought he played a pretty solid game overall. He wasn't on the score sheet or anything like that, but anytime a guy can have a solid game, not make too many mistakes, and play at a relatively high level for the entire scrimmage, which is something that these coaches are looking for, I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, he did look really good. I would say, he does have NHL experience. He played, I think it was 48 games with the Maple Leafs a couple of years ago. Last season, he was with the St. Louis Blues organization. He got traded from the Maple Leafs to the Blues in exchange for Jordan Schmaltz. So that was sort of a minor, pairing thing. He's not a top four guy. I'm think that's fairly obvious by how old he is and how many miles he's had already. But I would be totally fine with him making the taxi squad. He's got that NHL experience. He's a big body. He loves to lay the body and get people down. He loves to, he's a really hard shot. Reminds me a little bit of Zach Bogosian, if I'm being honest, who, frankly enough, just signed with the Leafs, which I think is pretty funny coincidence. But I wouldn't be opposed to having Borgman on the taxi squad, but I can see where you're coming from, and he might not be a Lightning player. He might just be a crunch player.
He's a solid defenseman, though, for sure. And having that kind of depth is always obviously very beneficial, especially in this type of season where, you have to expect that we could have a lot of situations where players are out, whether it's due to COVID-19 or just regular injuries. Michael, another guy I think we need to talk about before, we start talking about some other things is Matthew Joseph. I think he looked really impressive in tonight's scrimmage game. He had a goal. He had a couple of shots over there. He also looked really good with his speed. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but Luke Shen tried to throw a hit on Matthew Joseph, and Matthew Joseph ended up throwing Shen into the bench. So even a little bit of physicality going on over there for Joseph, but he looked really good. After having a good start with the Lightning last season, but ultimately getting sent down. He was with the team in the playoffs, but never ultimately played in the playoffs. He is gunning for another spot, another shot at the NHL level, and wants to stay at the NHL level this season if he can. And I think tonight he showed that he might deserve a spot or at least a chance on that taxi squad. to have that opportunity to step up when the time comes.
Yeah, and I think the line that he played on overall was fantastic. They were the quintessential, Lightning fourth line. It was Patrick Maroon on the left, Mitchell Stevens on the center, which I love Mitchell Stevens, and Matthew Joseph on the right. All three of them played a great game. They didn't spend a lot of time in the defensive zone. They got a lot of offensive zone starts, but when they did, it always seemed like Maroon was in on the forecheck. Stevens was that guy that was situationally aware of what was going on. Joseph flew everywhere on the ice. I thought Joseph had a fantastic game. We look for in these scrimmages people that stand out. And we said earlier that the entire team looked good, but Joseph really stood out from the rest of the pack. He really looked like he wanted to make that opening night roster. I think some of that helped that who he was playing with, Patrick Maroon. It takes two guys to take down Patrick Maroon, so that leaves an open spot on the ice. And then Mitchell Stevens is just so good at finding the open guy. And I think, Joseph's fast. He got open often.
Yeah, really solid night from Joseph overall. Another guy I think that deserves a mention here. He wasn't one that I would say stood out, but Steven Stamkos tonight. He wasn't on the score sheet and his name wasn't called a bunch, but we know he just came back from that injury that he had late in that regular season of last year and in the playoffs as well that kept him out for all but of that one game in the Stanley Cup Finals. But he looked good skating tonight, which is always a good sign when your captain shows that he looks like he's ready to go for the start of the season. That'll be a big boost for the Lightning if he's good to go.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. Like I did a three positives, three negatives on my Twitter account, and he was one of my negatives, not because he didn't look good, but because he was just non-existent, basically. Like I didn't notice him. We talked before the stream happened. You didn't notice him. He was trying to really get his legs back, I think, more than anything. That entire first line was kind of, iffy, if we're being honest, of Palat Point and Stamkos. But overall, I think that they'll be fine. Uh, and I think Stamkos was just trying to, get that game flow underneath them.
Right, and I think that's the important thing to point out there is that these veteran guys know they've got a spot on the team. So I think Stamkos is definitely one of those guys that was trying to ease back into things. But I think it is a positive that he did look okay when he was skating around after coming back from an injury. One last guy I want to shout out here, Michael, is Curtis McElhinney. Despite being the backer for the Lightning and letting in 5 total goals tonight, I thought he played a really good game. He had some really big time saves, and a lot of the goals that Team Blue scored on him came from breakaways after some of the younger defensemen made some mistakes and gave Team Blue an opportunity. But McElhinney overall played a really solid game tonight.
Yeah, he made some really, really good stops. His goals that he allowed, like some of them he'd like to have back. But again, this is a tune-up game for the guys that know they're going to make the roster. So I have no qualms about how McElhinney played. I thought he played like a backup, which is how you're supposed to play. He made some good saves. He let in some soft goals, such as the curse of the what now 37-year-old Curtis McElhinney or however old he is. Like guys, he's not a young guy. Like he's going to make mistakes.
Absolutely. Let's go into our negatives. I know we kindly mentioned or kind of mentioned a couple of our negatives, but Michael, if there's one thing that you didn't like from tonight's scrimmage, and remember, tonight is just a scrimmage. This isn't like a hit the panic mode button as the season hasn't even started yet. But what's something you like to see the Lightning potentially work on before the season gets underway here or as the season gets started?
I think that, they made some good individual defensive plays. I'd like to see them tone down their defensive structure as a team. I think that would be a lot better. But as far as team complaints, that's probably my only one. I had one player that I was not a huge fan of in this game, and this is not an indictment on the player. Dmitry Simkin, the former third round pick in 2018, he kind of looked like he was a step behind. And this is camp is a great opportunity for him, but it doesn't look like he's quite ready yet to make that jump, even maybe to the AHL level. I wouldn't be surprised if they started him. I don't know if they could start him in juniors, but maybe the ECHL if that gets rolling back around. He's got a lot of skills. Like his hands looked really good tonight, but everything else was kind of mediocre. So I'd love to see him get some more opportunities in leagues where he's playing against his peers, because he was playing against men basically, and I think that he would excel, and hopefully he makes the roster in a couple of years.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good point there. And I kind of mentioned this before, but for me, the biggest thing that I noticed from this game, and this is more geared towards the younger guys, a lot of these guys probably won't end up making the opening night roster, but it seemed as that we got to the third period, and especially that 5 minute 3-on-3 overtime, some of the younger guys, especially the younger defenders, started to get a little bit of sloppy. They started getting a little tired, and and that's normal for young guys who are still trying to adjust to that NHL level, but definitely something that those young guys will need to work on if they want a shot at making that opening night roster. Something that I was disappointed that we didn't get a chance to see was the power play units. There were technically penalties called in the game, but the Lightning went ahead and just did not do any power play for this scrimmage. And ultimately, we kind of talked about this before the show, Michael, but we think that is potentially due to them not having the lines that they wanted. Because remember, there's different players on both these sides, so they wouldn't have had the normal, power play one, power play two lines that they could have potentially used, or it might have been just two is that they don't have power play units ready to go. Although the season is coming right around the corner, so I do hope that they had something in mind. But nonetheless, disappointing that we get to see the power play unit work, especially because we're gonna be without Kucherov, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that power play unit works.
Well, we saw a video, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before, of people taking that Kucherov spot. And there were three different people on power play one. It was Mikhail Sergachev, who's a defenseman, which is two defensemen on the first power play. I feel like we're going back in time a little bit. And then there was Anthony Cirelli. It's great to see him get power play time. Power play one is a bit of a stretch, though. And Andre Palat, who was exceptional in the last year's playoffs, especially on the power play. So I think they're still trying to figure things out right there. I was a little disappointed. This is a tie-in to the power play. I would have loved to see some penalty kill. The Lightning are one of the most exciting teams on the penalty kill. They've been trying out some new uh, duos on the penalty kill forward side, more specifically Barclay Goodrow and Blake Coleman, which is a line that they tried one game uh, against the Calgary Flames, and they had three shorthanded breakaways in 40 seconds. It is the when people ask me what I remember from those two guys, and yeah, they had a lot of playoff success. It's going to be I remember those two guys, their penalty kill against the Flames, because that's the type of players that they were, and still are. So I was really disappointed we didn't get to see that today.
Oh, no doubt about it. The lighting penalty kill is definitely one of the strong suits. And something else to keep in mind, too, I think, is that, we could see these first couple of games this season be kind of a work in progress. I wouldn't be surprised to see different guys on that power play unit, specifically with Cooper change them in and out, trying to figure out what works best and see if something sticks like that. So I think that's something to keep in mind as we get started under the season. Because as we mentioned multiple times on this program, is it's going to be a crazy season. A lot of things are going to be different than what we're used to. So, no reason to jump the gun early at all, depending on what happens to this season. But, Michael, anything else to add before we wrap this up?
No, once again, I thought the majority of people did great, and the younger kids, they either excelled or they sank, and the ones that sank, they'll have some time to get back and get back next year and excel maybe in training camp next year. So overall, I thought it was a very, very nice training camp scrimmage.
Agreed. So that's going to do it for us, guys, today in tonight's video. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like down below and let us know in the comments down below who impressed you the most. Love to hear what you guys think and who you might think will make that opening night roster. And with that said, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and ring that bell so you don't miss out on more content like this. Got some exciting things coming your way. And with the season right around the corner, remember the first game going to be on Wednesday night against the Chicago Blackhawks on January 13th. And make sure you are here for when the first episode of Quick Strike comes back out for the regular season, and we'll be right here to recap that game for you and break it all down. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, your Tampa Bay Lightning are your defending Stanley Cup champions.
Cool.